Temperature temperatures are going to reach the mid-90s today, so it looks like it. But as you can see, the sun is beginning to break through the clouds here. And begin to warm things up here on the flanks of Coney Island. Not going to turn our runners, though they are.
All right, everybody, while my legs are still recovering, I'm going to go over the whole race day, break everything down, how I felt, what went on at the RBC Brooklyn Half Marathon this year, and spoiler alert, it was a really hot one. And we'll start off with kind of the morning and the beginning of the day, how I got around to the race and put everything up to the point where I crossed the starting line. First thing, I took a bus from the Upper East Side. We had one set up with my running club to go from the Upper West Side, then the Upper East Side, all the way down to Prospect Park to make it easier for all of us getting to the race. To start, we probably left a little bit later than we should, and the bus driver also insisted on taking kind of a weird route to Prospect Park and ended up on the southern end. So you can see here, this is pretty much where we got dropped off because the road started to be closed off and wouldn't allow traffic through, and we had to actually hurry our way all the way to the start, and we got to the southern point about 30 minutes before the race. I myself hopped on a city bike with the electric pedal assist. A lot of my other club mates just kind of jogged through the park and kind of had a rough start to the morning. I also had a little bit of trouble finding a bike dock around the starting area and the section in Prospect Park where we needed to, go through security and everything. So I started to panic because I had my check bag with me and the bag check was technically closing. So I had to scramble to find a bike dock and then actually kind of run to the starting area. So I would get to the bag check area on time, and I was technically a part of like the late bag check group. So actually the main bag check had left, and there was basically a straggler UPS truck that was going to take all the people who were late to the race, take their stuff to the finish area. So luckily I got a bag check on the late bus. There was just a ton of people backed up. Even as the national anthem was going, there was hundreds of us still trying to get through the security gate. So a lot of people were behind. Honestly, logistically, I think they need to do a better job at New York Road Runners handling this kind of volume, getting them through security. It just takes too long, so they really need more security gates no matter how early they tell people to arrive. But nonetheless, I actually got through, was able to use the porta potty. Didn't have enough time to really go as I might go in other races, but I did get a chance to, kind of empty everything that I've been overhydrating that morning, and was able to pretty much get right back up to the corral that I would have been in if I was there on time. So it just had taken a lot of time to clear everyone through the starting gates. And I probably crossed the starting mat close to like 7:20 in the morning. With the security gate, we're about 20 minutes behind probably. And the race had officially started at 7. So it was just so many people, it took a very long time to get everyone through the starting line of the race. Kind of a funny thing, I swear that the race started at the corner in years past, and it just was actually further down the road. So me and a couple people around me thought that we had started, and we hadn't in fact even gotten to the starting line. It was further than we could even see. It was about a football field's length or more down Washington Avenue. Just unexpected. I actually thought it started, closer to the corner. And again, that's why we were so confused and looking around, and we thought we missed the starting mat, and we were like thinking, should we go back and make sure we walk over it? And we didn't really know what happened, but the starting line was just further than we remembered. So now the race is going. I had made a very concerted effort to go out around 9 minutes per mile. It was a very hot and humid day. Luckily, there was not a lot of sun because there was a lot of fog for at least wave 1 when I was racing, and pretty much up to the point where I actually finished the race. Then the sun broke through the fog and everything got even hotter, but it was still about 96% humidity that day and still up in the 70s. So it was a very difficult race environment, and I knew I'm going to start around 9 minutes per mile. Even though the start was a downhill, there's a lot of hills that come up in Prospect Park, so I wanted to take it easy, and then the goal was to push push ultimately at the end once we hit Ocean Parkway, where it's pretty flat, if not even downhill. So 9 minutes per mile was very consistent through Prospect Park. I felt very comfortable on the hills because, again, I had slowed down and knew that that pace was going to be appropriate for those hillier areas in the beginning of the race. Everything was going well. I was starting to sweat a lot, but in the end, I felt good when I exited Prospect Park at mile 7. Once I was on Ocean Parkway, again, that's where the plan was to really let things start to go, let my legs be loosened up, and just, start to race a harder 10K effort. But I just felt like at that point, as I started to push, my heart rate was really starting to spike, and I think the temperature ultimately got to me. So even though I felt like I was starting to push my effort and drop down to 840, 830, things like that, when I was looking at my watch, the reality was the overall pace was still sitting pretty far back, close to about 9 minutes per mile. So, everything that I had planned out to take it easy and then be able to push harder, I just really never had the energy to push harder in the mileage on an Ocean Parkway that was flat and straight. And I really just kind of got stuck sitting around 9 minutes per mile because of all the heat. By the latter portion of Ocean Parkway, I started to slow down a little bit even more. It wasn't so much that my legs were tired or anything else was fatigued. I just felt like I was starting to overheat. I'm a bigger guy, around 240 pounds, and honestly, I think the weather conditions just started to get to me, again to the point where I just couldn't push as hard as I would have wanted to at the end. I planned on conserving energy to have that later push, and the later push just never came. I really think, again, just because of the heat and the overall humidity, that I couldn't cool my body temperature down as a bigger person. I did start to kind of like hobble through the water stations and Gatorade stations just a little bit. Some of them were a little bit depleted of Gatorade because so many people were taking fluids. There was also a little bit of a crowd around some of the aid stations. So in those later miles, I probably spent 15 to 20 seconds slowing down, making sure I got a couple of cups of Gatorade because I really truly needed it at that point, because I was really losing a lot of fluids throughout. So I needed to make sure I kept taking stuff in to not, crash at the end or really hit any kind of wall where I would have had to stop and walk. So Strava shows one picture. It looks like I slowed down quite a bit, but honestly, when I go back to the official race results that breaks everything down in 5K segments, you can see everything was really, really consistent. Again, it was right around that 9 minute per mile mark for the first 10K. I exited Prospect Park, and the next 5K up to 15K, you can see a little bit of a progression in speed where I tried to pick up the pace, but it very quickly dropped down. And by the point where we hit the 20K mark, I was right back up to almost 9 minutes per mile, and it just turned out to be a very consistent and flat effort. So I never got, again, the energy or the stamina at the end to really push any harder than I was going in the beginning. There's a couple factors. I was sick the week before. Yes, I did that mountain race, 3 weeks before the race date as well. But I think ultimately just the lack of maybe some of the training in the end, as well as the weather conditions, just ultimately led to not having the energy to push harder in the second half of the race. And I see a lot of my friends and things had very similar or consistent results where, we lost about maybe 5 minutes to what we thought we could do because of the weather, temperature, and everything like that was going on that day. It truly was hot. Unfortunately, someone actually passed away as they crossed the finish line, a relatively young person who was 30 years old. There was also almost 20 hospitalizations of people who were taken away from the course, probably with heat-related, injuries and issues on the course. So it was just a hot one. You had to be very careful about, maintaining the right pace for yourself and taking in a lot of fluids and things so you didn't dehydrate. But overall, I still had a really fun day. And, finishing on that Coney Island boardwalk is such a cool and unique finish. It was really fun to see everybody kind of lining the area. A lot of the rides and things of Coney Island are pretty iconic. So to be able to finish a race there as someone from New York who knows all those, spots and has seen all of that before is kind of special, and just a, a unique race opportunity, just like some of the other spots you pass with the New York City Marathon or New York City Half. There's a lot of cool stuff that I like to see as someone who grew up in the area. After the race, I did stop by Ruby's at the bar. It worked out really well, saw a bunch of my teammates there, and then last but not least, we were able to hop back on the subway, which took us right back to the Upper East Side where I had started. And, all things considered, it's a pretty simple, race day as far as getting to the start line and getting from the finish back to the start for a point-to-point race. The public transportation options are just pretty good for the particular spots where it starts and ends, so I think it's well planned out on the part of New York Roadrunners, and they actually let people on the subway for free that day. There was some police officers at the Coney Island entrance, just holding the exit open so people could go through. And that's generally something that they do on some of these big race days, is just let everybody go through for free. Probably more to stop from getting backlogged and having lines if people are trying to swipe cards while they're all sweaty and tired, more than just being nice and giving it away for free. But either way, you get a free ride and it does help things flow a little bit better. All things considered, I'm pretty happy with the race results. You know, in combination with having to bike ride in the beginning, sprint a little bit to the starting line, being a little bit behind schedule. I wasn't expecting a really big PR or even to meet kind of some of the other halfway goals that I have set along the way. It just was a good day to go out there, you know, battle hard in the weather conditions and, you know, get the race done the way I wanted to. You know, with a fighting effort and not just backing off and making it an easy day. So I'm happy with everything. It went just about as well as it could have for everybody I know, given the conditions. And, you know, it's just one of those days where you have to be really cautious because of the heat and the humidity. Only other thing I'll say is this medal, I think, is a little disappointing compared to some of the other ones. The detail on the medals that they used to have in the past, all the different engraving and things like that. It just seems like they went with this like color blocked medal that's actually almost exactly the same as the New York City half that was just a few months ago. So, you know, I'm not somebody who really cares or races for the medals themselves, but I do think that if you are someone who appreciates the medal and enjoys the medal, then the last two that I've seen from New York Roadrunners have been a little bit of a lazy effort. I hope they get back to some of the more detailed engraved medals that they have used in the past, because they're just a little bit more special than something that's just kind of color filled in onto a very flat metal image and not a lot of detail or anything like that. So hope they get back to the other ones very soon. So thanks everybody for watching. Hope that breakdown's a little helpful to give some more detail for the race vlog that I had yesterday. And other than that, you know, we've got a 5K fun run this weekend, have some other races coming up, and I'll talk about my Chicago Marathon training block very soon because it is going to start in early June, and I'm going to do, you know, an 18-week build-up and training plan for that particular race. So the start of it is coming up right around the corner. So thanks again, everyone. Hope to see you all in the next video.